Hello, this is Evan Rogers coming at you with the ka particle number 1 for Evan's Easy Japanese. I've entitled this presentation, Or What? Because that's what the ka particle does. Exciting, I know. Notice how it's number 1. There is more than one usage of the ka particle. This one is the sentence ending ka particle. The ka particle that we're learning today comes at the end of sentences. Just like I said, it's a sentence ending particle. Notice when we start saying a few sentences with them that there is a rise in intonation at the end of the sentence because you're asking a question. We'll go over that later. It can generally be translated as or, as is one of the other usages of ka. It's very interesting to think of the idea of asking a question as saying, I'm going to eat pizza, or something like, you're going to eat pizza, or what exactly are you going to do? And that's sort of what the ka particle does. And just to be sure, it turns your sentence into a question, aka an interrogative. The ka particle is generally used to make questions, as I've already stated. Making questions is a bit easier in Japanese than it is in English. Notice these few sentences in English. We have, I am a cow. To make that into a question, we have to actually take the verb and the subject, switch places,
change places,
and then raise our voice. Am I a cow? In Japanese, ushi desu. Ushi desu ka? Ushi desu ka? Notice the intonation change. Ushi desu ka? Ushi desu. Ushi desu. Ushi desu ka? The little bleh at the very end of the sentence makes it a question. Going on, I went to the store. Now notice, I went to the store. This is a past tense sentence. Yesterday, for example, I went to the store. To ask the question, we have to add the word did, make went turn into the plain form, or not the plain form, what do you call it in English? The present continuous form, so to speak, the present form. And then switch the verb and the subject. Well, this is the helper verb. Notice go used to be went, but did go means went, and then we have to throw did before I. Notice how we can't say did go I to the store. It has to be did I go to the store. Questions in English are ridiculously annoying. Notice in Japanese, though, they're quite easy. Mise ni ikimashita. We're leaving off the subject because no, you don't need a subject in every single sentence in Japanese. Mise ni ikimashita. I went to the store. Somebody went to the store. Mise ni ikimashita. I went to the store. Mise ni ikimashita ka? Notice the slight intonation change in ikimashita. Then we also have the chirp at the end. Mise ni ikimashita ka? What's important is that this ka exists. And notice how mise, ni, ikimashita, ka. Ka just turns that sentence into a question. Boom, that's how it's done. None of this crazy, let's invent verbs, throw them in between the subjects, blah, blah, blah. Or throw the subjects in between them. Let's look at English. I will go at 7. When will you go? I suppose technically if we wanted to keep these the same, it should be will you go at 7? Will you go at 7? But in English we generally use when, as opposed to will you go at 7, when will you go? This one's not too crazy. Notice also I changed you from I to you because will I go at 7 is a very odd sentence to ask anyone in the world. So I switched the subject to you. I will go at 7. When will you go? Once again, we have will and go gets split by the verb. Notice I will go at 7 and just put I in between will go and it sounds like a question. Will I go at 7? It's a question. When will you go? When is an adverb modifying the verb go, believe it or not. And then will you go is the actual sentence itself. Are you going to go? I will go at 7 turns into shichiji ni ikimasu. I will go at 7. You will go at 7. Somebody is going to go at 7. Itsu ikimasu ka? None of this wills and crazy stuff going on. Just itsu ikimasu ka? And this question mark shouldn't really be there, my bad. Question marks do get used in Japanese, but that's more of a casual thing than it is a professional thing. So just once again, notice itsu ikimasu ka. The ka turns the sentence into a question. And honestly, you don't need the ka there. You could just say itsu ikimasu. If you just ask it like a question, it can be a question even without the ka particle. Here we have negative questions, which translates to invitations. This could possibly be its own grammar lesson, but I figured I might as well just throw it in here. You already know how to make negative sentences, but when you turn a negative sentence into a question by using ka, it will, not always, but frequently, become an invitation. To understand why, let's look at English. Number 1. You will eat. That's a statement. You're saying, you will eat. It's almost a command, actually. You will eat, or I shall destroy your sternum. Don't worry, sternum's the bone in your chest, if I'm not mistaken. Nothing naughty. Number 2. You will not eat. Once again, this is a statement, just that it's a negative statement. We're saying that you won't do something. You will not do something. We're informing you that an action will not take place. Number 3, let's make it a question. Will you not eat? That's a negative question. Now, is this an invitation or is it actually a question? We're not really sure. Will you not eat? Oh my gosh, are you really not going to eat? Versus, oh, will you not eat with me? Something like that. This first one was a question actually asking about whether or not eating will take place. The second one was actually an invitation to join somebody. If we actually just crunch will and not together and we say, won't you eat? Once again, that's actually more of an invitation than number 3 is. English has this weird thing going on between number 3 and number 4. It's a contracted negative question, and it becomes almost probably 80% of the usage of number 4 would be an invitation. So hopefully you see that even in English, when we make negative questions, they just somehow become invitations. It's an odd thing that happens, but it happens in English just as much as it does in Japanese. Continuing with invitations, we see just in Japanese, tabemasu. That's a statement. It's saying that someone will eat. Number 2, tabemasen. It's a negative statement, just like the previous one. Someone will not eat. We're just saying that eating will not happen. We're not sure who we're talking about exactly. Most likely I. Not an eyeball, but me as me in the subject form is I. Number 3, tabemasen ka? This is a negative question. Is it an invitation? Is it a question? Depending on context, it could be both. Let's say that everyone's eating at a party and someone's not eating, and you say, oh, tabemasen ka? You're not going to eat? What's up, man? You're not going to eat? Versus, before you eat, you say, tabemasen ka? Hey, won't you eat with us? So you can see how a negative question becomes an invitation. So be aware of that. Be aware of that. When you're translating, when you're looking at things, when you're trying to communicate, if someone says tabemasen ka, they're not actually asking, oh my gosh, you're not going to eat? They're actually saying more along the lines of, dude, come on, eat with me. It'll be fun, homie. But not all of them are going to be invitations. As we saw in the previous 2 slides, not all negative questions are invitations. Context is the main way of finding out the difference between a question or an invitation. If you're a guy at a party and lots of people are eating and they say, oh, tabemasen ka? And you're not eating, that's most likely, oh, why aren't you going to eat? Whereas if it's before a meal and it seems like they're friendly and they're like, hey, come on over, homie, then it's probably an invitation. Also, it's simply impossible for some verbs to be invitations. For example, arimasen ka? Won't it exist? Oh my gosh, let's make it exist. No, that's not a thing that happens. Dekimasen ka? Oh, you won't be able to do it? That's, once again, just not a thing that can exist. So keep track of your context. I'm sure there's a rule for it. It almost seems like intransitive verbs cannot become invitations because it doesn't make sense. But I don't want to make a solidified rule for that. Just if it doesn't make sense as an invitation, then it doesn't make sense as an invitation. That thing in between your ears is very useful. Use it. Indeed, adding a ka to a sentence makes it a question. Not always, as we've seen. However, it's not always necessary or even appropriate to use the ka particle to make a question. Usually intonation and context are enough. I believe I mentioned this briefly. You can make a question by simply raising your voice. Tabemasu? You don't always need a ka. In fact, plain form verbs generally don't get kas. Oh, that's what it says. In plain casual form, the ka is usually left off. So that's about it for it. The ka particle for now. Check out Evan's Easy Japanese. I'm almost got my own website pronounced incorrectly. Donations are more than welcome. You can check out the donation button in the about thing. And have a wondiferous day.